Right now, a WLKY Commitment 2022 Forum featuring the race for Louisville Mayor.
Welcome to the WLKY Mayoral Forum. I'm Mark Vanderhoff. I want to welcome both candidates for Louisville Mayor, Republican Bill Deriff and Democrat Craig Greenberg. Thanks for joining us. Today's forum will focus on crime, safety, and policing. Each candidate will have 90 seconds to answer each question. Mr. Deriff won the draw and will go first. So, Mr. Deriff, if you are elected, how are you going to rebuild or establish trust between the community and LMPD, particularly between the black community and LMPD?
Well, as sitting mayor now, we're already doing that. And with our police chief, who will be coming downtown with me in some capacity, we've already started going around the community to different groups in all parts of the community, whether it's in the Russell neighborhood or Portland or PRP, and we're known in J-Town. So moving forward, the trust and proven leadership coming downtown is something that will be ready day one. And whether it's the police officers who have already told us they're coming back, or the people that we've sat in roundtables discussing how do we do policing in the future, it's a matter of the mayor, the police, and the community coming together to look at how policing will be in the future. So as we look at what policing will be, the biggest thing everybody keeps saying is talking about community policing, where the community and the police get involved together to get rid of the crime in their neighborhood.
Mr. Greenberg.
Thanks, Mark. Thanks for having us here today. Improving public safety is the #1 issue for the next mayor of Louisville, for any mayor of Louisville, for anyone involved in Louisville city government, period. We must reduce the amount of senseless gun violence and violent crime and any crime that's going on throughout this community. And as you've just asked about the police department, that is one critically important part. I strive as mayor to have the best police department in America here in Louisville. And to me, that means one that is the best trained, the most trusted, and the most transparent. In terms of building that trust back with the community that we all want and deserve here in Louisville, we need to be proactive. We need to focus on community policing, where we have a fully staffed group of police officers who are working with the community, working with members of the clergy, neighborhood leaders, business owners in neighborhoods, formerly incarcerated individuals, to work to prevent crime from happening, and so that our police force is really focused on community policing that's preventing crime. At the same time, we need to be transparent. And when things happen that we don't want to happen, the chief, the mayor, everyone involved in city government needs to be honest about what happened, what we've learned from the situation, and how we're going to do something different moving forward. Together, building those relationships and being transparent about what the police are working on every day, I believe will build a stronger bond between the police department and our community, and will make Louisville a safer city.
Mr. Greenberg, you mentioned reducing violent crime, and as you know, violence continues to plague the metro. So what will you do to reduce the number of fatal and non-fatal shootings?
We must reduce the amount of violent crime in this community. We must reduce the amount of senseless gun violence. We need to go all in on a comprehensive set of solutions that involves improving our policing, as I described, but also more than that as well. I recently announced a plan right now under Kentucky state law. When guns are confiscated off of the streets, they're recirculated through the state government, and many of them end up back on the street to commit crimes. That is absurd and dangerous. As mayor, on day one of my administration, we will ensure that the policy complies with Kentucky law by returning these confiscated guns to Frankfort, but only after rendering them inoperative. Any gun that is used to commit a crime should not end up back on our streets. At the same time, we must start implementing programs like group violence intervention, programs that have been proven successful in cities like Boston and other cities across the country that have reduced the amount of violent crime in those cities very significantly. Here you again work with members of the clergy, neighborhood leaders, federal, state, and local gun and local law enforcement to identify individuals who are most at risk of committing crime and help them on a new path in life so that they can have the resources and services they need to lead a productive life that does not involve crime. I'm open to all solutions, any solution, large or small, that will reduce the amount of senseless gun violence. That is my #1 priority as your next mayor of Louisville.
Mr. Deriff.
So when we start talking about violent crime, The key thing we have to do, as I mentioned, Rick Sanders will come with me. He has handled this in Chicago many years ago. And what you do is you get rid of the cartel and the gang leaders on day one. You put a list of them on the wall, and you start bringing in all the different agencies to make sure they're working together, to make sure that the people that are doing the violent crimes at the top are given the chance to go to jail. And it's time we put the hardened criminals in jail and help those that are in jail that shouldn't be there, the ones that are addicted. Let's give them, as in J-Town, we have the Angel program. Let's let them have the solution before they have the crime. So as we look to the future on violent crime, the one thing that we talk about is the youth. The youth has gone, I mean, we had this weekend, the youth were doing shootings on the Waterson Expressway, shooting each other. That should not happen. So the Youth Detention Center has to come back. I am working with Kevin Bratcher in Frankfort right now. As a sitting mayor, I am not waiting till January 1. We have to do things now in order to stop the crime in the future. But to bring the Youth Detention Center back, it will be different than it was in the past. Those have to have consequences that have done serious crimes, but we also have to help those youth. When we eliminate the cartel leaders, make sure they have a chance that the future is beyond the drugs or everything else. We have to show them a future is bright.
Mr. Dearf, at the same time, LMPD will be fighting crime. They've also got to perform a lot of reforms, some of which are going to be forced upon them by the federal government. So they're going to be under a lot of scrutiny for whichever one of you is elected. So what are you going to do while they're undergoing all these reforms to make sure that morale stays high and to make sure that you can continue to recruit and retain officers? And what are you going to do to recruit a more diverse police force?
Well, your first part was when we have the Department of Justice report, which I'd love to hear right now, because we should decide on how we're moving forward as leadership. The one thing leadership shouldn't do is a mayor should not tell the police chief which laws to enforce and which ones not. It's not my job. You should have a police department that is responsible, but yet able to go out and keep the community safe. So the Department of Justice report comes in. I'm an accountant. As an accountant, we get audits all the time, and we look at it as an audit as a scorecard of how to do better. So when we start working with the Department of Justice, it's a matter of a working relationship in the future of how does policing look better. And when we say better, it's not only the policing within the community. We got cyber policing we got to do. There's going to be a lot of changes. As a person who's been doing this for 12 years, policing never changes. No job ever changes, no matter what department it is. So when we make the community to where the police have to both be morale, they've already said day one, if I come downtown, we have several officers that said they will come back. I'll be at a U of L game, and I had 35 officers say, I will come back if you are downtown. That's morale, because they realized by backing me, all the FOPs that backed me said, we want a leader that we can trust, we want a leader that will be there for us, but we want a leader that holds us accountable. In fact, I was on the Kentucky Law Enforcement Council that took the certification away from the explorers, the cops that were on the Explorer program. So we will be tough on those that do not do it right, but we will let the police be police.
Mr. Greenberg.
To me, the Department of Justice consent decree will be a framework for reform, a framework for moving forward into a new era of policing and safety in Louisville. It's certainly not a place where we want our city to be, but if that's where we are, we will use that as an opportunity to make improvements and to make Louisville a safer city. I strongly support the hardworking men and women in our police force and will be working with them so that they know they have the support of their mayor, of their chief, of their entire city, and the entire community. We will work on other programs as well, things like deflection programs, where when a 911 call comes in that is not related to a violent crime, but maybe a mental health crisis, instead of a police officer being the only person to go, a mental health professional will go in their place or with them to better serve that individual in need and ensure that our police officers are focused on preventing crime and responding to the most violent of crimes. So they will have my support. I'll be working on recruiting and retaining the best police department in America, one that is diverse and reflects the community that it serves. And finally, I believe that the mayor is accountable for the safety in this city. The citizens elect me as mayor, and the police chief, it reports to the mayor. So when it comes to crime, it is important to hold the mayor accountable for those actions of the police And my police force will be focused on preventing violent crime, not on other things like arresting women or doctors who are seeking to perform an abortion.
Mr. Greenberg, group violence intervention was heralded as this game-changing strategy when the city leaders announced that it would be coming to Louisville. Do you believe group violence intervention, or GVI, has been successful so far, and why or why not? And if you're elected, what would you do differently with GVI?
GVI, group violence intervention, is a program where federal, state, and local law enforcement and other government officials work with members of the clergy, neighborhood leaders, business owners, formerly incarcerated individuals, to identify those individuals, usually younger folks, who are most at risk of committing violent crimes or who have already committed violent crimes, and work with them to get them a new path on life, with the understanding that if their other option is unfortunate, but that the book will be thrown at them and the law enforcement will come after them. I firmly support this program. It has worked very well in other cities. I believe that this program here in Louisville needs to have the strong support of the mayor, of the law enforcement, of community leaders, and that we need to go all in on implementing GVI here in Louisville so that we can have the same success that we've had here in Louisville as we have in other cities. To me, improving public safety takes all sorts of creative solutions. We need solutions that are urgent to act on and will make a meaningful difference. All of them might not work, but as mayor, we're going to try comprehensive solutions across the board to make this our #1 priority to improve public safety. And to me, GVI has a proven track record of being part of that solution.
Mr. Dearth.
But group violence intervention does not work unless you got intelligence-led policing. And the first thing we have to make sure we don't do is pull over the young black male just because of the turn signal. We have to go after the cartel and gang leaders to get them off the streets so that our youth has a chance. And then when you do that, you help the youth, show them a different way. Group violence intervention, when it first came, as you mentioned, is not the same as it is today. It has changed tremendously over time, and it will constantly be changing of how we bring our youth forward. But when a person that is leading in that direction, they need our help before they go to that direction, whether it's on the education level, affordable housing, or a commitment to say, this is what's out there that you can do better. The group violence intervention is something that we bring the children in and show them a better way. But we have to do that prior to them going that direction. And if we don't do the jobs, the digital connection, all the other things prior to it, shame on us. It should be the secondary thing that we do, not the primary thing we do. And it should be after, but during the same time, that we get rid of the head of the cartel and the gang leaders, because we don't want to let the kids go back on the street and be influenced to say, yeah, you can make a lot of money this way. We want to show them that life is better and doing something different than what they see on the streets.
Well, Mr. Dearth, Louisville Metro Corrections is also undergoing a lot of changes to increase security for both inmates and the corrections officers. So what do you think remains to be done to help both those inmates preserve their rights, but also make sure that you have a good recruitment and retention among the corrections officers?
So on the one side is we got to stop putting people in jail that shouldn't be in jail. And as I mentioned on the drug, people who have addiction problem, they should be through our Angel program that we have in J-Town, to where we have over 300 locations nationwide to help them. Now they will fall, but we need to make sure we help those addicted and not put them in jail. Those people that have behavioral problems, we have a social worker that we help. We work them through to where they realize that living on the street is not something that should be acceptable. So when we start talking about jail, that we should have a whole group that shouldn't even be there. We should be helping them prior to getting in there. But when we talk about serious crime, we have to make sure they serve their time. But in order to do that, we have to have the right personnel in there. And looking to the future, several things that I would do for corrections for the personnel is, one, they should be able to do lateral transfer to LMPD. What better person is an employee that you've already known for several years, that has done nonviolent intervention with the persons that are in jail, to ask them to come to LMPD if they want to. Second thing is the pension. I am working right now on making the pension to where when we have an experienced officer or a corrections officer, that when they retire, they can come back and they can build additional funds in their pension system. I'm an accountant, the numbers work. So as we work to the future, we have to have the incentives to keep the corrections people to where they are the best of the best, and that's what we'll hire, the best of the best.
Mr. Greenberg.
Right now in Louisville, over 50% of the murders are unsolved. In our jail, over 50% of those incarcerated are there on alleged offenses of crimes that are nonviolent crimes and on bail of less than $1,000. It seems like we're arresting and focused on the wrong people. We must reduce the amount of violent crime and solve these homicides so that justice is brought to those who are killing others, and focus on supporting those who are otherwise ensnared in the justice system and give them the support and services they need so that when they're released from jail, they have the opportunities to succeed in life. And so we need to focus on programs in jail that help prevent recidivism. Some of the programs currently exist. We need to strengthen them for men and women, but also we need to support their family, their children, and others in their support services so that when people get out of serving time in jail, they have an opportunity to succeed and don't end up in that revolving cycle of crime that we need to prevent here in Louisville.
Well, that concludes our time for questions. Since Mr. Deariff answered the first question, Mr. Greenberg had the choice to go first or second for a closing statement, and he elected to go second. So, Mr. Deariff, you will go first, and you will have 1 minute for your closing statement.
Thank you, Mark, and I appreciate you having us here today to let the people know that there's hope at the end of the tunnel. That as mayor, we bring experience down, and Rick Sanders coming down in some capacity, we understand what it will be like to make Louisville great again. And so as we look for crime as the number one thing, the one thing we have to look at is our juveniles, our youth. Our youth is something that we have to make sure we have the youth detention center so there is a consequences of what you do. But on the other side, we have to save our youth from even having to go to the youth detention center. So right now, we are doing this. I am a mayor right now. We are working across the community on keeping us safe going forward. So I would say on January 1, we will be already working to keep this community safe, and we have to change what's going on now to make sure downtown is a place both perceived as safe and downtown is a place that is actually safe. In order to do that, we have to get more police officers to come back. J-Town, we had 2 police officers that we were at, that were openings. We had 100 apply for the job at LMPD. That shows leadership matters.
Mr. Greenberg.
Thank you very much for having us. This election is about the future, not the past. I have a sense of urgency, a plan, and action to improve public safety in Louisville and make that the number one issue for the mayor and the entire city government, to reduce the amount of senseless gun violence in our city and make it safe for every neighbor, every neighborhood, as we move Louisville in a new direction forward. We don't need any more studies. We all have plenty of solutions. It's time for action, and that's what I'm focused on doing. We've talked a lot about ways to improve public safety here today. We also need to invest in the root causes of poverty. We need to invest more in mental health services. We need to address the systemic injustices that have impacted our city for far too long. And together, combined with the other strategies that we've touched here today, we will move Louisville forward in a new direction. We will build a safer city, a stronger city, and a healthier Louisville. I'm excited about the opportunity to be your next mayor of Louisville, and I would welcome your support. Thank you.
Well, that concludes today's forum focused on crime, safety, and policing. We want to thank both candidates for joining us. A reminder, Election Day is Tuesday, November the 8th. For WLKY, I'm Mark Vanderhoff.